And really, even some of what we've got left aren't pure topics, but we work with what we get. So once we have a list like this, what we can start doing is drawing out the themes, the concepts that are evident up on the board. For instance, the first one might be employees. There are a number of words up here, employees, as well as words like associates or people, that really speak to the concept of employee services or the needs of that particular group within the organization. And the next one might be products. Even though the words are different, core industries, training, solutions, we can facilitate the group to agree that the meaning behind all of those different words is the concept or the topic of products. And we can go on and on and on and on and on like this until we've effectively crossed everything off of the board. Now, that made it look really easy. Typically, with a group of 12 to 18, I just took you through about a day's worth of facilitation with a lot of swearing and a lot of disagreement, but that's okay. That process is didactic. Through doing that, the group that we have doing this becomes our taxonomy team. Through learning it and suffering and arguing it, they have now the ability to help identify additional topics at lower levels. And so we identify our starter taxonomy, these topics, some of which are clean and some of which are dirty, but all of which have some meaning behind them, and words like sales and marketing or words like products typically have the same core meaning to everybody. So we start at this top level with our starter taxonomy, and then we get to benefit from one of the byproducts, which is the fact that there were all of those non-starters up on the board. People were consistently trying to throw out words that weren't pure topics, but were instead document type or organizational structure or audience type or location. In every organization, these non-starters, these non-topical words will be different. But what we can do by capturing all of these is find themes in them. That these are, in fact, potentially secondary metadata fields that we also want to tag our documents with. In other words, if we were forcing people to talk about topics, and even though they heard that loud and clear and understood what a topic was, they tried to slip in these non-topical entities, that probably means they're meaningful, and it probably means it's a natural way for them to think. It probably means that there's some value behind it. So we can use that as a guide to not just our primary taxonomy, our starter taxonomy of topics now, but the additional metadata fields that we might want to use to tag content. And we all know that we can then translate that into a metadata strategy with as much detail or depth or technical design behind it as we want. But the short of it is that once we have this top-level taxonomy, we have the ability to repeat those same exercises using a group that's now baselined to come up with the second level, and potentially the third level if it's necessary. And over time, to help us test it and build it out. This core group that we made suffer through 3 days of facilitation is now a true taxonomy team. They're business users, so they can sell the mission back to their colleagues in sales or their colleagues in HR. But at the same time, we've grounded them in some KM techniques and concepts that are going to help them carry this forward without the need of pricey consultants or KM experts coming in every day of the week to maintain the process themselves. So the process begins with that workshop. And obviously, there's follow-on. There's card sorting exercises. There's testing. There is a full methodology that backs up that workshop methodology and continues the process on. But the short of it is that within a few days, you can make amazing progress on this, not just in the design of your structure, but in the people that will help you carry through this entire process. And you'll see that this taxonomy team I've been talking about runs right off the right side of the screen. That's a group, just like the taxonomy itself, that would never be finished, but would continue to maintain, sustain, and govern this tool. So we've got our buzz questions. Doug, I'm not sure how we want to get these across. Do we want people just to read them themselves, or?
Well, you might just read them just to make sure everybody, if anybody has a question when you read one of them, they can raise their hand. But
perfect.
We're going to unleash you onto these buzz issues in just a moment.
Excellent. So the first question is between traditional taxonomy, those deep, rigorously maintained structures that may or may not be usable versus business taxonomy. What does your organization have now? A mix of the two, one, the other, both? How does that work? Question number 2 are the systems or projects that might be a good fit to implement business taxonomy within. I am the first person to say that business taxonomy is not appropriate for any system that you might have. So the question for you is, where would this be successful? And where would it show the right kind of value for the right kind of users? Question number 3 is adapting the workshop. We have, over the last 5 years, done pretty much every variant you can imagine on this workshop. We've done it all over the world. We've crunched it into 1 day. We've extended it into 2 weeks. We've done a series of them for a single organization that's lasted 9 months. The question is, how can you adapt it to fit into your needs in your organization? Next is, who would you involve? I stressed the involvement of business users, but can you refine that any further? Can you think about the types of users or the profile of these folks that would be ideal for this? And then lastly, can we discuss as a group the risks or issues that might fall out of this process? What might not work about it? Specific to your organization, what might get tripped up here? Fair enough?
Fair enough. Okay, the buzz is on. You're to discuss these topics at your table, and whatever comes up next.
I would say it's fine to walk in and say, well, we don't have a taxonomy. I would say you have to have a taxonomy, otherwise you couldn't find the of your content. And taxonomy might have to have that file cabinet or in that folder structure or in terms of brain. Everyone has a taxonomy. Questions on taxonomy from
So, if you want me to jump in, it's exactly the way it sounds. It's taxonomy built for business users. So, whereas scientific taxonomy would be based on managing the information, completely rigorous, reliable, suitable. And there are lots of business taxonomy, which is much looser, much flatter,
It's really dictated by how the practices themselves structure themselves. So if we get a major change in a service line, for example, we've got a technology integration practice which is separate from our strategy practice. We had a capability within strategy called business IT strategy, which is a real crossover. That capability moved over to our technology integration practice, and the taxonomy followed